Saturday Night Fever. LSU Odyssey is live in the house. How's everybody doing? I know a lot of you are reading or have read the article we just put out, and I hope you're digging it. It's a catch-up and kind of a current status on everything to do with LSU in the transfer portal right now. All the guys LSU have signed right now, and a little bit on who they're going for next. LSU are in a different spot here, quarterback-wise. We'll get into all that. Fill up the comments section and let us know your thoughts and give us all of your questions. Just 1 second as we get situated. Saturday night, LSU Odyssey is live, and here I am thinking that the newborn would be the easier one to watch over. Well, wow, we were in for the run for our money. But here we are, and a ton of thoughts going through my head as far as what we've seen from LSU in the transfer portal thus far. Let's see little Ari right there. The mystical apple. The mystical Mystical apple. Yes, you know what? We should actually start the show with that. Considering we have hit the mark, we are now over 1,000 subscribers, and we haven't ever really made the YouTube channel our number one thing until probably about the last year. The YouTube channel was always kind of secondary to what we would write on the site and what we, the articles. Well, we started kind of thinking, okay, I think we like doing the talking here, the vibe of recording this, and we were kind of having fun with it, and let's go full on into this. And we've seen such growth after really not a lot of promotion from us, not a lot of investment from for anything into that. It was very casual. It was the casual side of LSU Odyssey, the biggest info and the breaking news and most of the breaking news, all that stuff was going to come out in the articles. And then we started using the show as a platform to, we would surprise, hey, John Emery Jr. is returning to the roster when no one is expecting that. Breaking news at the time, have a big breaking news show where we would announce, a season-ending injury, sadly, or just stuff like that. We were starting to kind of tie all of the things together. And so we've been really trying to get something more going on this YouTube channel and kind of hook it all up to the central hub of LSU Odyssey. And through that, we've gotten over 1,000 subscribers now, finally, on YouTube. I don't know. There's some people who have 10, 20,000 subscribers now who cover LSU who are probably laughing somewhere. But that's all good with me. We now can accept, what are those called? What are those things called? Cash chats or whatever. I can't remember what the hell those things are called. We've never gotten one before. Super chats. That's what it is. Super chats. We can now accept super chats. Well, who knows? Maybe YouTube is like, no, actually, you can't. Everyone else can, but you can't. Because, sometimes YouTube does do that. We don't know if we can accept super chats or any of that type of stuff. We haven't seen anything or cared to see or even looked to see if YouTube has said, hey, you've gotten over 1,000 subscribers, whatever. But we did see that we had. And we were like, oh, wow, we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark. Sweet. But I really want to thank, most of all of you guys like Paul Tarver, guys like King Cole, people like Jamer, so many of you guys who tune in so much and really support us like crazy. And maybe you guys only watch the YouTube channel. Maybe it's not like you're reading every article that we put out or even following our Twitter, which is, really, if you're into what we do, you got to follow the Twitter because a lot of the stuff is posted there. But really, LSU Odyssey is the place you got to be most hooked up into, because LSUODYSSEY.com is where everything that we do, we post it there. But I really am just grateful, and I really feel blessed, and I really appreciate all of you guys for helping us hit that that landmark. It's just the start. We've been doing this for 8 years, but it's just the start. Some people are going to get, they're going to get a degree, a piece of paper. They're going to get a fast track to a job, something like that. And we're not. We're going to have to really fight for everywhere that we go and every step of the way. And that's cool. I'm fine with that. And this is just another part of that process. And thank you guys so much for helping us get to the 1,000 yards, get to the 1,000 subscribers. It's been a bit, but we, like I said, we haven't really put as much effort into it as we did the other stuff. So now that we have, you kind of see that we're getting some of the payoff from that. And it's all because of you guys. And it's all because of the amount of times that you guys support us and give us that type of love. So we are so grateful for all of you and all that you guys do for us. and all that you guys support us with and support it. And just, I sound like an idiot, but I'm just trying to say, fucking love you guys. Lane Kiffin's year one portal so far. Okay. We have to talk. I was warning everybody of serious hype. You know, we're getting into some crazy hype with Lane Kiffin when he first arrived. Just he's going to be perfect, everything. Oh my God. And I'm like, you know, I really like the hire of Lane Kiffin. I really want him to be awesome. We got to first see it. We got to like see these things take fruition before we can just ordain people. It's been very interesting because you could argue he knows what he's doing, the evaluation. He's going after some of these small school guys because they fit what he does, and it's all going to be good. Just wait. These guys are going to fit his system. Their skills fit, all this stuff. Oh, he gets this guy from Kennesaw State or this guy from Old Dominion or this guy from this place in comparison to last year when we were getting, you know, these really top school, big name kind of portal targets that we brought in. And then you got Kiffin going for some real small school targets here. I mean, let me read some of this off. This is from our article earlier where we've got the full list of all 21 transfers LSU have pulled in. And that may change to 22 in the next 5 to 10 minutes. If what I've been told is to be correct, there could be a portal signing that is going to either be broken or announced while we're live here. That's just what I was told. Maybe it won't happen that way. Maybe it will, but kind of late, I think, to announce a transfer portal acquisition. I don't know. I'm getting old, so maybe it's not late at all. But you see LSU's list of, you know, the full list of all the guys they brought in. And it's very rare that, you know, there's a guy from maybe Auburn, a guy from Clemson, a few from Florida, you know, a guy from like Utah, like this guy from like South Carolina, guy from Tennessee. Like, okay, there's some like big heavy hitter schools that you've taken some guys from and stuff, but on the most part, there's Boise State, there's Hawaii. You know, I mean, there's what was the name of that freaking school that that offensive lineman was from? Copiah Lincoln. Yeah, Jacoby Jones from Copiah Lincoln. Okay. Jaquan Sprinkle out of North Carolina Central. We got a receiver, Tyree Holloway out of West Florida. We brought in a dude from McNeese, Josh Jackson. There's a lot of small school, potentially high value guys that you bring in because they're going to be small dollar as well. And so you bring in a guy like Jaquan Sprinkle, and then Manny High, national champion, Manny, Louisiana native, Jacoby Jones, you know, Copiah Lincoln. But some of these guys actually know how to aggressively knock someone off the ball and get a push and actually, you know, illustrate and give some oomph to a running game, whereas guys on our last rosters did not. So, you know, we can write off some of these guys if you want to, but it's like at least they're going to give you more oomph and aggression than our last offensive lines did. But I'm going to explain what I'm going to kind of tell you where I'm going with this all. Okay. Sorry. I keep putting the camera in the lights. You can get away with this with offensive line. You can potentially make this work with offensive line. I'm not going to say you can get away with this because you have to get the best guys for offensive line, and you have to hope that they're going to work out, and you have to make sure and put the work in that they work out. But quarterback, receiver. I mean, you're going down really to some slim pickings. LSU, yes, we got Trey Wilson the third out of Florida, but he was not a wide receiver one material out of Florida. Still a great addition, but he had 1,000 yards over 3 years, not in one season, but over 3 years. Okay. Jackson Harris almost 1,000 yards, but at Hawaii. I do love Jace Brown from Kansas State. I think he's the best receiver you've got so far. But look at this. LSU's 3 newest receivers, the ones that we've signed over the last 24 hours. And, you could argue, well, it's just Lane Kiffin, like, adding the depth. Okay. But, like, this is kind of the philosophy I'm trying to kind of show. Josh Jackson has no numbers collegiately. Illinois' Malik Elzy, and Illinois was a top 10 team at one point, ranked in the top 10 this year. But even on their roster, Illinois top 10, but like it's still Illinois. Malik Elzy only had 213 yards, 16 grabs, and just 2 touchdowns over 3 seasons at Illinois. And then you got West Florida's Tyree Holloway with 661, 34 grabs, and 8 touchdowns. But that's at West Florida. So, okay. What I'm kind of seeing here is a pattern. I'm seeing a pattern here. And I hope it doesn't extend into the quarterback position. But I think now with what's happened, I think we have no choice but for that to transpire. Kiffin's going for this low dollar, possibly high value target list where you're talking about maybe signing 30, 40 guys, and maybe 4 or 5 of these guys are going to be like, the big time targets that everyone wants you to go for. And it's going to be something that you're going to have a lot of faith in Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock in their evaluations. And I want to ask the question to Kiffin at spring or whenever I get the next chance to. Coach Lane, are the guys that you signed to LSU, and you had to kind of really put this list of portal targets together quickly, were a lot of those names, like, what was the percentage of those names that were on your list for, like, your next year at Ole Miss? Like, were those, like, how long were some of these guys just entrenched targets that you wanted to go after for years here? That's the question I want to know the answer to. Because it's very interesting. You've started developing this class, but so many of these names are guys that, I mean, I can maybe think of 1 or 2 guys that, like, even I was really, like, well established in knowing about before this portal window, and it's only a few guys. I'm gonna be straight up honest with that. There's only a few guys. Steffian Green was one that I knew. Trey Wilson, Eugene Wilson, the third from Florida. They're not many. Okay. And maybe Kiffin is just a bigger football junkie than I am. Maybe he's a bigger football junkie than all of us. And he's evaluating a guy from West Florida, a receiver from West Florida on his Saturday night, instead of, being like Joey Freshwater back a few years ago. So my point is, this whole class, this whole Kiffin portal, leaning on the portal for the first 2 years of the Kiffin era, this entire Kiffin experiment, it really does depend big time on these portal guys hitting, and it really depends on a lot of these small dollar, potentially high value guys hitting, and those guys delivering year in, year out. And it revolves big time on Lane Kiffin and Billy Glasscock's evaluations being mercilessly awesome. You've had to completely revamp your wide receiver room. You've seen them go after 6 receivers already in just a week. And some of the names I'm kind of like, I don't know much about this guy, or this guy hasn't done anything yet, so we don't know anything about it. And then, maybe one of these guys is a 1,000-yard receiver next year. Because Kiffin has done this before with his evaluations, where a guy like Trey Harris, no one was really like, yeah, Trey Harris, when Ole Miss brought him in there, Louisiana native Trey Harris, and then he goes in there and he's one of the best receivers they had in a long time at Ole Miss. My point is I really want to say this is all about, and this is all going to hinge on Lane Kiffin, Billy Glasscock hitting on their evaluations. There's no other way to put it. There's no other way to say it. And it's really like they're either going to hit on these things, and these guys are going to be big contributors. And a lot of the guys they're going after have multiple years of eligibility specifically. They're going after a lot of freshmen. They're going after a lot of sophomores. And so what that tells me is they kind of, this is how they want to reshape and rebuild the roster, is kind of like start it all over, but with these guys from all over the place. And I'm thinking, what a gamble this is. And it could be a gamble that could pay off big time, because then you got a bunch of donors around LSU who go, oh my God, I gave $6 million to the cause last year, and he basically bought our entire offense outside of the quarterback for $6 million. This year, I'm going to give him 12. What do you think he's going to do with that? How much do you think he's going to maximize with that? That's something that can really be huge for LSU, is that you can maximize these players and the on-field, skill sets that you need, that Kiffin needs in his offense, while minimizing this huge, high-dollar, bloated locker room roster. And then at the same time, you don't have a bunch of egotistical assholes running your locker room either. You don't have that locker room division. You do have a chance to have more of a, lunch pail mentality, for lack of a better word. You do have a chance to have more of a in the foxhole mentality on your roster when you're building it with younger guys through the portal, yes, but they're younger guys. They're guys that maybe haven't pulled off too much at their other school, haven't done too much on the field, but just like recruiting them out of high school, but just like a year later, Kiffin is like, that's what he's looking for. Like, oh yeah, I know you didn't really have a good year last year. I don't really care. I know what you could have done out of high school, and now we're going to just kind of start over from there. And you're just like 2 years more mentally mature, and I can definitely work with this, and let's go. That's what I feel. That's the reason why I look at Cam Coleman. LSU haven't gone anywhere near him, nowhere near Cam Coleman. And that's not because Cam Coleman isn't a good player, but rather than spend $3 million, $2.5 million on this guy, Cam Coleman, they're gonna go for somebody like, Trey Brown, and then Jace Brown, and then Trey Wilson the third out of Florida, and all their names almost sound the same, and go and get some real quality depth at the same time while you're bolstering the receiving room. And I'm not sure if it's going to pay off. That's the thing, that all this is a big gamble, because these guys have to hit. There's years where this did not work out. This portal, the way of this portal strategy of Lane Kiffin's didn't work out all the time, every single year at Ole Miss. Doesn't mean that it won't at LSU. I think it has every chance to do that, but you need a quarterback. You need some strong offensive lineman continuity, and you can't just replace the starting five year to year and year. So year to year to year. So I expect next year's offensive line to be one of the weakest in Kiffin's eras at LSU. I expect that, because you've just finally replaced all. You're starting new, like the fresh first five. of the Kiffin. Like, there's going to be some issues there. But the receiving core, the way he's handled it, that's either boom or bust. You've got guys that can either really pay off there, or it's going to kind of be nondescript. But either way, at least you didn't go throw a shit ton of money on a guy like, say, like Destin Hill, who didn't do anything last year for you, or a guy like Berrien Brown, who special teams asset, made some good plays in the receiving game, but really wasn't the player you thought he was going to be. Nick Anderson, once again, a guy who just never was the player you thought he was going to be. And maybe this is all because of Cortez Hankton. Maybe Cortez Hankton just sucked, and we actually did have a good receiving core last year. But either way, Kiffin is saying, I'm never going to spend that much on the receiving core. But at the same time, there are a few guys from Ole Miss that they definitely want to get on this list. And they definitely want to bring to Baton Rouge. I think you can guess. Maybe I think you guys could guess one of them at least. But the two receivers that are at Ole Miss that they want to bring over to Baton Rouge, I'm impressed by one of them big time, but the other one, not so much. This is a very dicey portal project by Lane Kiffin. Let me put it to you like this. You had the number one quarterback in the entire portal on your campus. And while things weren't like perfect, and maybe there was a little bit of some disinterest and some weird vibes, you don't, in the middle of their visit, while they're on campus, right there next to you, talk to the representative of DeMond Williams and then go, shit, we're switching course. See ya, Sam Levitt. And then expect, like you can do that. You can do that, right? And then Sam Levitt and his parents can get upset, righteously so, and leave town never to return, right? But then Lane goes to Knoxville to try and get Levitt back after the DeMond Williams things falls through. And then you think you can get him then? Like, I got to admit, that's a little tacky. And I understand LSU desperately needs a quarterback. And I understand Sam Levitt desperately needs a team. But Sam Levitt is not as desperate as LSU is. Let's get that straight. Someone will find Sam Levitt and someone will pay him. And it might not be the sexiest place that he wanted to go. It might not be the place he wants to go at all. But if he can't trust Lane Kiffin, if his family isn't comfortable with Lane Kiffin, after what we were told was said in reaction to what happened, then you might as well stop doing this and stop barking up this wrong tree, going on this plane trip to Knoxville like it's a rain-soaked end of a rom-com in the 90s, and just maybe keep those resources into going and getting a different quarterback. Instead, you do this, and I don't know what it really is going to produce. Maybe Sam Levitt will change his mind. He's at least shown that he's been receptive to listening to Kiffin, to at least being willing to meet with Kiffin. But after what we polled, this whole embrace the villain, embrace being the villain, all this stuff, beating our chest that we're going to screw this guy over and get DeMond Williams behind this guy's back, and he's seeing all that shit on social media. I don't think that's not going to have an effect on the kid. Are you kidding me? Like, it doesn't matter how hard or how soft you are. You want to play somewhere where people actually trust you, where people actually give a shit about you, at least to some degree. And this, with Sam Levitt, was really, really this got so strange, guys. And it's going to continue to get strange, I think, until it's resolved and until we figure out where this is all headed. because LSU's options at quarterback are now really slim. Like I understand. Someone said Houston Longstreet is on campus. Houston Longstreet is on campus, and that's great. That's great. I really root for Houston Longstreet. I root for him. At the outset, are you going to try and tell me that he is, comparable to a Sam Levitt, comparable to a DeMond Williams, comparable to even a Brendan Sorsby, comparable to even a Dylan Raiola, comparable to a DJ Lagway? I mean, LSU really, we screwed this here, man. We screwed this here. She wants me to hold her. The quarterback position, we might be screwed. Oh, she's screaming. Give us a good burps. Give us a good burps. Was there a disturbance in the gut? So, I guess my point is I did not expect to see LSU missing out on all of these opportunities, or not even taking some of these opportunities with some of these quarterbacks. And now being so far down this list, where Dylan Raiola is going to Ole Miss. You don't even have a shot with Dylan Raiola. You missed on every one of them. Trinidad Chambliss never was going to get the waiver, and then even if he did, he was going to return to Ole Miss. There's probably some type of tampering thing that Ole Miss knew about that they were like holding over his head. We don't know about that, but that has been alleged. I'd like to see proof of that before people would just allege that type of stuff. But it's been reported for a long time that there was tampering there or whatever, but no one's really said what or how. But you missed on Trinidad. He was probably your number one target, I think it's safe to say. And then once you had Brendan Sorsby on campus, it just seemed like everything went downhill. You missed on Sorsby. Then you had Levitt there for multiple days. You pushed for a commitment from him. He didn't give you one. He's just sitting there kind of staring off into his phone. People are talking about how he ignored Kiffin, allegedly, at the game. Kiffin went to speak to him, and he just kept staring into his phone. I don't know if that's true. I haven't seen footage of that, but someone has said that. Someone I trust has said that too. So it's not just someone just making shit up, but someone who actually has some real juice. And so you don't know what to think about this whole thing. And you don't know if that is is that a relationship that we should really force as well? Like, you've got to be our quarterback so that we can prove that we got a high dollar, big time quarterback. Like, do we really have to? Let's get the right guy, the best guy that we can get. And that's the problem here is you have seen all of these teams make all of these moves in very quick time, to the point that LSU, I can't remember who said this, but I was listening to someone who covers LSU say this, and I want to give credit, but I'm trying to remember who said it. Someone said it is one of the only LSU analysis I've heard about the quarterback situation right now, because I haven't really had the time outside of doing my own stuff and watching these two to really like listen to and watch what people have been saying, because this is, I think, actually kind of precarious situation. I think this is a crazy situation to be in. I think it's actually a very, very dangerous, potentially dangerous situation to be in, where they said, it's musical chairs and the music has stopped and everyone is a quarterback except for LSU. And I was like, oh my God, that's such a great way of saying it. Who said that? Was it Moscona who said that? Because Matt is someone I watch a lot. I love watching Matt. I think he does a great job. Yeah, I think it was Matt Moscona who said that, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But it was a great analogy of like the music stops and you don't have a quarterback, everyone else has. You're kind of the left outside the dance without a date type of thing. And you thought Kiffin was going to have we were going to have the pick of the litter. Like everyone was going to want to come play for Kiffin and play in this offense. Be a part of like this kind of new era. And I am shocked and stunned that there has almost been a rejection of LSU in a way by some of these quarterbacks. Like I'm not going to sugarcoat this at all. I don't think it's as extreme or as like, oh, we can't sign anyone. They all hate us. No, I think no. But there's a few agents who have a lot of the quarterbacks in college football. And these agents have had some problems with LSU, and they don't like LSU. They don't like dealing with LSU NIL-wise. And so they do whatever it takes to make sure that their players, their quarterbacks, do not sign for LSU. Sometimes that's the thing you guys don't see and don't understand, and sometimes I don't see and I don't understand, is that the agents, not just the families, not just the whatever, the agents play a role in where someone goes as much as anybody. Because if the agent just turns to the family and says like, hey, he's going to get $5 million more if he goes to Texas rather than BYU, the family's going to go, oh, let's listen to that man over there. Even though that man wants a bigger cut and all, like, listen to that man. More money over here, dog. So this is why you don't want to rely your entire roster and the biggest pieces of your roster to the portal year after year after year. And this is why it doesn't always benefit you to be the most divisive, most hated, most like villainous, most suspect person, shady according to some, at the table, and that's the thing that we have to accept, is that whether we love Lane Kiffin like we do as our head coach, there's a lot of people out there who hate this guy. And we've just got through that experience with Brian Kelly. And now we get it again with another one of the most hated coaches in college football, in Lane Kiffin. But Kiffin has enough offensive production on the field to prove that that's a man you need to go play with, because I think, you go play with him, you're gonna have a better chance of going to the NFL, all that stuff. I hate to say it. Outside of the obvious, Alabama, USC, some of these schools, maybe the last few years at Ole Miss, Kiffin hasn't always had this like stellar, unimpeachable history of sending guys to the draft year in, year out. And maybe that actually will benefit LSU, because you actually have guys that will fit a college system more than, hey, we're going to develop you for the NFL and you're going to basically make our offense really terrible. We're going to try and fit a square peg into a round hole. And then you'll leave after 2.5 years, 1 year, one and done out of the portal, something like that. And then we're left holding the bag, and we paid you a huge bag and you never really did anything. And now you go to the NFL and you're great. Like, no, maybe we can avoid all that. And with these kind of smaller dollar, higher performance, higher ceiling dudes, and a lot more options of them. That's the thing. There's a higher volume of these guys. He's going for more quantity than quality. And maybe in doing so, maybe there's a quality within each one of these guys that we're going to kind of see come to the fore, come to the light, the more often that we see them play. But just on paper, just on the surface, you've got to be worried about quarterback. You've got to be worried at quarterback, because, guys, we still don't have a quarterback. I don't care if Houston Longstreet is on the campus. It's not the level of quarterback we were wanting. And he could turn out to be a great quarterback. Maybe I'm wrong. But you can't look me in the eye and say that was the level of quarterback you were expecting either. This has been a disaster in all actuality. Ari, do you want your little binkies? This has really, truly been a bit of a disaster, hasn't it, Fuzz? We can't find a quarterback. We can't find a quarterback, girl. So, yeah, we put out an article just the other day that really you got to check out. It catches you up, gives you a bunch of info that you haven't heard anywhere else, that gives you the details on a lot of these guys, either how we were able to sign them or what they're going to provide for this team. I think there is a bit of trusting the process here, trusting the method to Lane Kiffin's madness, which is this guy's more of a football junkie than we are. You know, this guy's more of a football junkie than probably anyone on earth, and he watches more football, and so he's going to know more players. He's going to recruit more players. He's going to have more options of guys to go to. And what shocks me is there's a lot of times he's gone, no, we're not even going to pursue Cam Coleman. We're not going to pursue this guy or that guy, the big name, the big shiny object, the big shiny toy. And he goes for a lot of smaller time guys, smaller dollar players to build this roster. And it's very strange. It's very strange. You don't see that so much in college football. You see everyone desperately going for the hottest girl at the dance, blah, blah. And Kiffin's like, yeah, man, I'm going to go hang out with this slut because at least I'm going to get some. Like, that's how Kiffin has done this. And quarterback, though, man, quarterback is such a situation that really just still throws me for a loop. That LSU is in this situation quarterback-wise. We are still in such a situation quarterback-wise that is freaky. I mean, you are getting down to Eli Holstein might be next on the call. You know, you might be calling Eli Holstein soon enough. Can you believe that? And guess what? Eli Holstein right now might be a pretty damn good option, considering what's out there. I mean, I'm just hoping to God something happens, something changes where, like, somebody pulls a DeMond Williams where they actually haven't signed something and they can back out of it. Well, we actually have some interesting news on that front. We reported first that Caden Durham, LSU running back, was going to transfer. And that was like 6 days before he made the decision and official. And once he made the decision official, it was kind of like, oh, we all expected that. Everyone all expected him to enter the portal. I didn't completely. I was kind of shocked when I was told that information and had to report. I was kind of like, whoa, he is? That sucks. I wish he would have stayed. 1,000-yard back, total yards, like dual threat back. Like, yeah, he had some injuries. He'll be fine. Get him back next year. He's good. And instead, it was, okay, he's going to go. He's probably going to go to Oklahoma. Now you have Kiffin meeting with Durham and his parents to try and get Durham to stay at LSU. There's a chance that Caden Durham could stay at LSU, guys. That after entering the portal, putting his name in officially, that he could take his name out, redo all of just what just happened, and stay. Man, that would be amazing. Caden, if you're watching this, because I know Caden Durham watched our show at least a few times before. Caden, if you're watching, from me to you, brother, come on home and be a Tiger. Come on home and be a Tiger. I don't care if they even give me the shit of, Lon, you got it wrong. You said he was entering the portal and then he stayed. It's like, he still entered the portal. He just changed his mind up. You were wrong. I don't even, I'll take that type of bullshit. I'll take all of that. Just come on back home to LSU. Then we've got Harlem Berry. Then we've got Racine Guillory Jr. Who was that other running back? That other junior. Rod Gainey Jr. And then you got Caden Durham in the backfield. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Cole Adams says, I know quarterback and offensive line are still looking very iffy, but who do you see working any harder than Lane Kiffin and his crew? What was BK doing this time of year? He will turn every stone. I get it. But the truth is, there were only a certain amount of options available. Whether BK was a lazy asshole or what, like, that's obvious. But there's only a certain amount of options available this year for quarterback. Offensive line, I think we have a hell of a lot more better shot to, like, get that in a good place. But quarterback, it might be a rough year because you might have to get someone that is way down the list of who you expected, and that quarterback knows that's kind of the vibe. He knows, he can feel that vibe from the coach. Like, it's not good for anybody. You want to get somebody who wants to be there. You want to get someone that the coach wants. You want it to be a mutual love fest at quarterback. You want someone who's all in, not someone who can feel the mutiny from within and they're gone after a year. You don't want that shit. So my point is, I want to see a few star power names here with all the money that you do have throwing at this, almost $40 million in NIL cash. I do want to see a few big names here. But more than anything, man, just get a quarterback that's worth a damn. And I think Eli Holstein might be the best quarterback on the list. Like, I'm looking at the list and I get chills because I'm not sure where LSU can go. Houston Longstreet, Eli Holstein. I mean, Dylan Raiola was even an option, and now he's gone. He's going to Ole Miss. You can see my phone all beat this shit. So, this portal project by Lane Kiffin, it's one that's going to be built of, this is going to be built with a ton of options, a bunch of maybe smaller names, guys who aren't extremely, supremely, household names or whatever. And maybe a lot of guys who actually haven't produced much on the field. And that's the thing that worries me the most is, like, okay, if that's the guys that you maybe want to develop, like, the Kiffin era around for a few years, okay. You just want something that can, like, prove that, okay, we're going in the right direction. And I do love what we've done in the trenches so far as defensive line. You've made some good signings there, but you also lost out on Chaz Coleman, big-time defensive end that I really think would have been great for this team. But, I mean, here's the thing. Chaz Coleman only had like 3 sacks in his career. Chaz Coleman wasn't some like proven, Dylan Stewart character, okay? And instead you go get Jaylen Brown, who has a past relationship with Sterling Lucas and has that trust and belief in Sterling Lucas. Maybe that's a fantastic option there. Maybe that's a silver lining there, and maybe you lost Chaz Coleman because you got Jaylen Brown, and then you've got Jordan Ross, who signs from Tennessee, and this dude, very interesting to me. This guy could start for you this season. And so you are starting to build something on the defensive line that's very interesting. Malik Blockton from Auburn. That's another piece to the puzzle here. But William Satterwhite is an interesting guy out of Tennessee. You brought him along. It's just some of these guys are hard for me to talk about because I'm not as well versed on all of these guys, and I know people are going to pretend that they are, but they're not. They're just faking and pretending that they are. It's not like anyone knows who West Florida started last year. Like, good Lord. But we will go and do our research and do all of the deep dive work that we know you expect from us, that we've been able to do for years and years, and really kind of put a finger on who these guys are and what they can supply for LSU, and if Kiffin is making the right moves. But number one, you've got to find a quarterback, and not only you've got to get multiple quarterbacks. That's the problem here. You're in a desperate spot, and now you need multiple quarterbacks, not just one, multiple. I hope Kiffin can figure this out. And hey, you know what? If anyone can figure this out, it's likely going to be Lane Kiffin. But here's the thing. Don't be shocked if year one under Kiffin, things don't go so well. Don't be shocked. But I have a lot of faith in what LSU can do on defense this next season, especially who you're bringing in on the freshman defensive line. I think those guys are going to play big time for you. But you've got to you really need some stud playmakers on this offense, guys who are going to stand apart. And, Jace Brown, Harlem Berry, Tradez Green, right now, Trey Wilson are probably the guys who are going to do that. But still need to see more oomph. And I think you're going to start seeing some more oomph in the trenches, because we have been told that 2 more offensive line targets have just signed for LSU in the last 2 hours, and will be announcing that officially in the next, I think Sunday, and at the latest Monday, they'll be announcing those 2 guys. And then you've got very interesting target here at quarterback. I'm not even going to reveal this name, because this is crazy. This is weird news. I didn't expect that he was in the portal. I think he just barely entered. I'm kind of stunned. Like, wait, how can LSU be going after this guy? Oh my God. Yeah, we're gonna have to really go look into this right now. Everybody, we're probably gonna have some crazy, interesting stuff coming for you the next 12, 24 hours. So buckle up and get ready. Everyone have a happy Saturday night, and go Tigers, baby.